Hello, welcome back into the Spread and Essence Sports Betting Podcast on NESN.com's Mike Cole, joined once again, as always, by Ricky Doyle. Ricky, how are you?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Not bad, not bad. Well, actually, if I could.
Yeah, by all means.
We will get into the Super Bowl. We'll dissect everything that happened. Well, not everything. I mean, it's by the time you hear this, it'll be old news.
Yep.
We'll kind of get into the offseason a little bit, do some other fun things, if you want to call it that. This is a tough time of year.
I'll tell you what, the cold's starting to get to me. Like, my hands are just like...
Me too, dude. Look at
demolished. Yeah, I'm like bleeding all over the place.
I got
have
some...
to keep reapplying.
Yeah, I was going to say,
lotion.
I've got some good stuff, but it just...
It only lasts so long. Yeah, it's temporary.
And I was thinking about that. This is not a tangent I expected to go on. I'm just not fit for that life. Like... I'll do it once during the day, and I just never think to do it again, and I keep putting it off, and then finally it's just like the only time I do it is when I get into bed, and it's right there on my nightstand. So
no, I come in, and it looks like I've been in like just a bare knuckle brawl in the parking lot.
I was showing my son last night. He's like, when are those going to heal?
Whose ass did he kick?
Yeah, I was like, tell him the word heal. He's like, when are those going to heal? I was like, not until the weather gets warmer. And so it hit me this weekend. I don't even really like football that much anymore. Or I do, but it's just the rhythm of football season is what I really am drawn to at this point. And that hits you on Super Bowl Sunday. They're like, that's just, and then the problem is like.
They just took that away. What if you didn't have football anymore? Like, imagine how long your winters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the problem. Is like now I know exactly what the feeling is. Like, I can remember it. It's happened. Like, I've become so aware of this that I know exactly what I'm going to be feeling on Sunday, where it's just, and it's supposed to snow on Sunday too, and it's just going to be this like
empty. There's an emptiness
and it's
to
just like that look outside, and it's just like, this is what we've got now, and it's just like, as a golf fan, there's a good golf tournament this weekend. Like you can start to kind of see it coming. Yeah, but I mean, we're getting our ass whooped right now.
That little bastard. Puxatawny
That's
Phil.
what I was just about to say.
Us 6 more weeks of it.
And like that. So that's the other thing. We didn't really dive into that too much a couple weeks ago. Groundhog Day, like.
Well, we too focus on the Ouija boards.
Right. Yeah, I know.
And it would have been a perfect segue into some Groundhog Day talk in hindsight.
Yeah, that's fair.
I feel like there's some overlap.
Forgot the Ouija board too, but what was I gonna say? Oh, that's. I mean, I know the whole point is like it's 6 weeks either way, but like when Groundhog Day rolls around, February feels like it should be. We're getting near the end. It's like, no, you've got 6 more weeks of this at least. And we've been kind of lucky the last few years, but we're starting to make up for that. We're getting our ass whooped. Just it's cold. It's snowy. Oh, one big development in my life. Football is done. Football is done.
You're playing.
Watching and my viewing and my playing.
It was a good run, though.
There's too much snow. I got to wait for the snow to melt.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason I'm outside of the snow.
Too slick.
It's not even slick. It's like 6 inches of snow. You can't just, I need snowshoes.
It is that much there? Where you go?
We got probably 4 to 6 inches.
Oh, wow.
And it's been cold, and we're going to get some more. Yeah. And then and then it layers on, and I had already.
Well, it's a hard snow now.
Yeah, and so like I was actually kind of surprised. I was out there last time I was out there a couple weeks ago. I'm trying to I'm just kind of messing around, and like there is a 3-inch layer of ice in parts of it. Yep. Where it's just like, how did that even happen? I guess it probably because it rained recently, sort of snow melted, and it's just been so cold. It's great for pond hockey if that's something that you're into, where it feels like there's been a lot of that. But I don't know, man. Like it's just bleak.
Spring training's there.
Does that get you going at all?
A little bit. First few days.
So, like, theoretically,
nice.
Sure, but this is another thing people just forget or omit when it comes to this. Is like pitchers and catchers is this sacred, holy day or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, man, workouts don't even start for another week after that, and then the games don't start till like 5 days after that.
I found myself like when I was a few weeks ago doing just planning out some things and looking at like the calendar, and I was trying to make heads or tails of like pitchers and catchers get there this day and full workouts this day, and I think I had something wrong initially, but it's
literally a week until like practices start, and then after that it's a few days until games, and that's the other thing too. I think we rush to be like, it's not,
the thing is, it's not like you have spring training and then all of a sudden, like, you're just opening days right around the corner. Like, you hit like a little bit of a malaise within spring training.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
I was just going to say that.
Upward trajectory, little dip, and then you got to get back up for opening day. So it's like roller coaster of emotions, to say the least.
The Twins again? I got it. Yeah, so it's cold, it's winter, it's tough. Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was making food and stuff, and I'm just like, there's nothing.
What'd you settle on?
So, ribs.
Okay.
Ribs in the oven. Didn't want to smoke because it snowed the day before, or that day. And so that was nice, though. Blessing in disguise. If you're going to ever get snow, just Saturday night, all night before Super Bowl Sunday is a good one, because I was out there and it turned into heavy snow because it melted pretty fast because it got warm. So it was heavy snow, getting a workout in, getting a pump in, burning some calories and feeling better about the food I ate later in the day.
It was also out of the way early enough
100%.
that like it didn't impact any sort of anything that you had to do on Sunday.
Which is crazy too. I went to the grocery store to pick up something, and there's nobody at the grocery store too. I think it scared people away. It worked out as well as it could. So yeah, it was. But like just those, again, like I said, the rhythm, whether it's snacks or just your week is kind of built around the fact that like I just need to do everything else to kind of keep that block of time open, regardless how big it is. Like, I don't watch the same amount of football that I did in the past, but it was just something I knew I had.
Well, it
ties in. And also, I didn't mean it, but it ties like September to February. So you think about it, and I've been really in it, like thinking about this stuff. Where
clearly,
like Halloween happened, and Thanksgiving happened, and Christmas happened. It's just this run of stuff going on, and then all of a sudden
it's like a warm blanket.
Boom, it's done.
Yeah, you always have that.
Yeah, right.
It's always there,
comforting.
Because now it's like on Sunday, if you're running around doing things, what's the background noise?
Right.
What's the go-to?
What's my excuse to get out of doing stuff?
Gotta find some new podcasts or something.
Yeah.
It's just it's the de facto like Sunday morning get up, put on pregame coverage, get into whatever.
Like, I have a different life than you, but like it's one of those things where it's like, all right, we're taking the kid out to do stuff to kill time before nap, and at nap there's football. It's just now it's like, what's the point? We can just go do whatever we want. We're not rushing back. I miss that. I miss the hustle and bustle. I was gonna make up.
So you're in a good spot mentally. It sounds like
it's tough, man. I got a lot. It's just it's not fun.
What do you think of the actual game?
Sucked.
Yeah,
it was a bad Super Bowl from tip to tail. Like, it was not good. Nothing. The food, I ate good food. We had ribs. I made some potato skins and some loaded potatoes. What else did we have? Some onion rings and some mod sticks. Nothing like, but just small. A little smorgasbord.
That's good.
But like, I don't know, man. Then the game starts, and it just wasn't good. I don't know. I did you enjoy it? Like, as a quasi Patriots fan, no. That does nothing for me. They're like the whole, like, as a Patriots fan rooting against the Chiefs, like, whatever. No, it was kind of interesting to see the Chiefs get their ass whooped. Like,
well, I mean,
just from a
not
outcome.
to totally take a victory lap, but like we did say that like there was a scenario where that game could play out like it did that Tampa Bay Super Bowl, and that's kind of
exactly what happened. And I am pissed at myself because I was looking at it on FanDuel last week, and I got greedy, and I was like, I want something more than 20 points, and you could have got like, what was it, 18-20 or something at like 12-1 for the Eagles or something. I don't know what it was. And I was like, give me 20 plus at 15. Which actually almost didn't even get home.
Which was directionally correct.
Yeah, but
like it's just that the garbage time stuff comes back to kill you.
Did you make some bets? Did you have a good gambling day?
Yeah, very good actually.
Oh, good for you.
But there's just too much though.
It's
like when it comes to the Super, like I got to a point where like early in the afternoon, you're just kind of like keeping track of some of these things, and you're just like, I don't even know where I'm at now. Like I've read thousands of different things, considered thousands more in my head, and it's just like at the end of the day, the only thing I felt good about was probably the Eagles and Jalen Hurts MVP, and those like because the other like little smaller props, I was kind of just all over the place. Didn't do very well with those,
right?
So I should have just stuck to the basics.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it always goes. Part of my thing too is
get too cute,
especially if you're hosting or if you're like I spend the whole day getting ready or and all of a sudden like 6 o'clock rolls around. It's like, oh, I got to get more bets in. It's just like, there you go, nuts.
Like you hadn't contemplated it at various points
exactly.
for 2 weeks.
I should have just done more. And I'm the same thing where it's like I should have done just more directional stuff and like hedging my own conviction that I thought the Chiefs were going to win with that bet of like the Eagles blowing it out just in case. But I talk myself out of that because it's like, well, what happens if the Eagles win by a field goal? Then I'm just gonna be like, well, I was wrong both ends. So all I end up was on, or all the stuff I had hitting was Devontae Smith stuff, and I had him over his total, and then I also had him an alternate total of 59, was it, or 60, and he had 59, or was it 69? And he had 7. I missed it by a yard.
Yeah,
and for a second, I brought this one up last week. The Mahomes, Smith, Barkley, everybody leads the thing. And like Mahomes, by the grace of God, got there. Smith was the leading receiver as well. And I even said like Jalen Hurts 75-1 or whatever. And Smith didn't get there though. I thought Hurts was the leading rusher, coincidentally, which was crazy. So that was like a 75-1 payout.
Leading receiver is probably worthy, right?
Yeah, so that was the thing. It's just like I would have been if I had made that bet. So I went on like this roller coaster of emotions over like 12 hours after the game, being like, "Oh God damn it! I could have got a 75-1 payout," but not realizing that Worthy was the leading receiver. I thought it was Smith. So if I had that bet with the 75-1 payout, and then Worthy catches that touchdown late, I would have set myself on fire.
It's the classic like talking yourself in circles when it comes to the Super Bowl too, because like you settle on what like some sort of narrative that you think is going to play out. But then you also feel good about something else, even though it might fly completely in the face of the narrative that you've built in your head. Like I liked the potential for Xavier Worthy to have a big game, but I also felt pretty strongly about the Eagles. So it's like, to what extent is he going to impact the games?
Again, that turns into like process versus product too, right? Where it's like directionally you were wrong, but you would have gotten home with the pick anyway, which it doesn't. Now you're just in a pretzel.
Yeah, it's tough.
All over the place. Let's see what else is there from the game. I don't know. Do we need to do like the legacy stuff? Everybody's done it.
Yeah,
ad nauseum. I wrote this on Monday. I think Mahomes, the comp right now is Montana, not Brady.
Sure.
And I think even having the discussion about Brady is insulting, which I thought before the game, honestly. And I do wonder if he had gotten to if he had gotten to 4, had a 3-peat, how does that change it? And it's like, it doesn't. It really doesn't, because Tom Brady won 2 Super Bowls in his 40s. Like, we're so far away from having this discussion. It just seems silly. Whereas, like, there was that thing with Brady earlier in his career, especially before the end. I think probably the Falcons game really sealed it, where there was probably coming out of the second Giants game where it's like, well, he's won 3, but he's lost 2, and is getting to 5 more impressive than Montana winning 4 and not ever losing. I think that's where Mahomes is right now.
Yeah.
And he might actually go into the wilderness for a while, too, with what the Chiefs... So, like, if he can come back, we can have that discussion again, but for now, that thing is toast.
I think, like, he could have certainly enhanced his resume, his legacy, whatever you want to call it, by winning the Super Bowl, but I don't think by virtue of losing, even in the manner in which they lost, I don't ding him for that.
No.
Like, I just think that there's so much evidence on the other side of the scale pointing to his greatness and the Chiefs' greatness that, like, it's still...
I think the bigger issue is getting his ass...
He lost to a better team.
I think the bigger issue is getting his ass whooped by Brady 5 years ago or whatever it was. Like, I think that's the other thing, too, is that Brady beat him twice in, like, 3 or 4 years or whatever it was in the playoffs in big spots. Like, he can't ever undo that. So, again, it's an uphill battle, which is... It should be. The guy won 7 Super Bowls. It's insane to even... That's the other... So... 7-3 is a pretty lopsided difference, no matter what. So is 7-4.
Right, but like for me, it's like he still got to the Super Bowl. Like it's one of those weird things where it's like, would he have been better off like his legacy wise losing in the AFC Championship?
Somebody else had the same conversation where it's like you only get dinged for losses when you get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kind of an interesting point. Like,
yeah, it's just like it would be also an entirely different story if like this is a guy who consistently can't get over the hump.
Yeah.
But I just feel like with the Chiefs in general, it's like, you have over the however long this lasts, like you're gonna have points of missed opportunities and other points where they just pull stuff out of their ass. And I think ultimately it's just all gonna be at face value.
Yep.
Like it is what it is. It evens out. Kind of like with the Patriots.
Yep.
It's like there was the potential for a lot more there, or they could have accomplished a lot less given some of how a few of those games played out. So what it ended up being is what it is.
Fair. Yeah.
Just it all evens out.
It's the same thing with
it's like life,
as I always do about the Packers. Like with Rodgers, I was so adamant for years that like no, they could still, and then we're getting to the end here, and this is what the resume is, and that's what you are. Like at a certain point. So.
Now, do you think the Chiefs though at least have like a pretty good runway to at least stay in the conversation here? Like I don't see them all of a sudden become. You don't think so?
No.
I mean, I'm
they
interested
had no
to see.
business. We talked about this last week too. This was like one of my things is like they didn't really, outside the fact that they won, which is you get credit for, but like there was not a whole lot this year that made you think that they were as good as their record was, which I know is very unfair in hindsight, especially. Maybe I'm overreacting to sample size in one game. That offensive line is not great. The defensive line is getting older. And that feels like kind of an issue. And they have no receivers outside of Worthy.
Yeah, I mean, you have to
Kelsey's cash.
Shuffle the deck in some manner this offseason. Like, you got to address those needs, the offensive line being number one. But it's like...
I think they'd actually benefit from not actively trying to take the year off, but if they go 9-8 and just kind of peter out, just to kind of reset.
Yeah. It almost felt like they were, like, figuring out where they could cut corners and still be the Chiefs. And I think
like
the Patriots...
DeAndre Hopkins is an example of that.
Yeah, like and I think the Patriots went through that in the middle of their dynasty where it was like, all right, can we get by with Brady and Julian Edelman playing defense? I think the Chiefs are sort of in that
That's what I'm saying.
State.
Like, I think they're... But it took the Patriots a while to get out of that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and to their credit, they did. Like, I think they realized, like, all right, we need to really load up on the defensive side. The Chiefs, I mean, they've done the load up on the defensive side thing. So for them, I think it's rebuilding that offensive line.
They've got to hit on some of these draft picks too. I think that's the other thing is like the draft does you in eventually. And nobody's been better in the draft, it feels like, than the Eagles and the Chiefs. There's some question marks about whether
it's definitely, if you're one of those like contenders in the AFC or on the fringe of contention, like you smell a little blood in the water. Like there's some vulnerability there that probably didn't exist a year ago. So like if I'm the Bills, if I'm the Ravens, I'm going full throttle this offseason.
Yep. We'll kind of get that. We'll hit on some of that with our offseason talk. I think I had one thing in here, like, are there any big picture takeaways, thoughts for betting, especially that we need to file away? And, like, I have one.
What's that?
The trench thing is legit.
So, I like the offense and defensive line. Well, so I was going to raise this. Like, are the Eagles perfectly built for the current NFL? Like, I just feel like they offensive line, defensive line, dual threat quarterback, high end skill position players, speed and youth on the second and third levels of the defense. Like, if their roster stacked.
Yeah, if they keep drafting well. Yeah. It's like, because eventually you have a lot of good players, you got to pay them. You can't pay them all. You're going to have to recycle this, and they're not quite there.
They have
yet.
a good track record.
Yeah,
of that,
I was going to say that's a good point. Like they won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles and with Jalen Hurts, two guys who have questionable track records. And honestly, if you want to go back to that team that won with Foles, like that was built to be Carson Wentz's team. So Howie Roseman's the man. Like that's the big takeaway. But you look at a lot of these games, maybe they just stick out because it's so obvious, but where teams get got or where there's this ugliness, a lot of it stems from the team that can win in the trenches. And like, and I guess in a 1-game sample size where you have 2 weeks to prepare, like that stuff is usually going to come out in the wash. And I think that's what happened here is that I would love to be in that like Eagles meeting room Tuesday of Super Bowl week being like, we got a pretty good feeling that this is going to go well for us because they can't block us. We don't need to do anything exotic. And on the other side, we're just going to bully the balls off of them. And that's kind of the way it went.
Kind of give the Eagles credit, too, for like the about face they sort of had after like they ran into all those issues. There was like the
That's
internal strife they were dealing with.
We've been talking about Bill Belichick to the Eagles for what feels like 2 years now.
And like the fact that they were willing to be like, to address the problems head on, bring in Kellen Moore, bring in Vic Fangio, and like just reshape that coaching staff. Like get some adults in the room and just realize that the current path you are on, as talented as you were, just wasn't going to get it done. So, I mean, that takes balls to be able to do that.
And convincing.
Not every team does.
Bringing adults in and convincing other guys to become adults. Like I think
buy into it.
Sirianni has evolved, I think. I mean, obviously, and so has Jalen Hurts and any other number of AJ Brown is in a similar, bringing, and then like they brought in the on-field version of an adult in Saquon Barkley, who's by all accounts a good pro. So
would you stand on Jalen Hurts? Has your opinion changed of him at all? Not even just of this game, but like the season.
Yeah, like I don't think
he looked good in that game. Like right from the beginning. Like there was maybe that one mistake with the interception early in the game, and that was like, those are the plays you can't get away with against the Chiefs. Beyond that, he looked totally in control of that game.
I will say, even with that pick, like throwing it down there by the 5, if you got
to throw,
the resume again is pretty hard to argue, and I don't think he'd be as good somewhere else, but it doesn't really matter either.
Yeah.
Like they've built a team around him that's very good. We just got done talking about how great the roster is. So he does have that benefit, but
I almost feel like
the Ravens roster is good and they're at home. Like,
I don't know if like
the 49ers roster has been good and they haven't broken through.
I don't know if I'd put this Eagles team among like the all-time great teams discussions, but it's hard to remember a team looking like they win 16 in the last 17 games.
Yeah, that's
like they were good. They passed the eye test.
Yeah.
All the metrics point to how good they are. Like this is a good team.
It is one of my own faults is just being so late to the party on that, and even still just not totally comprehending it.
I also got a little lucky.
Yeah.
Health.
Yeah,
it was pretty healthy for basically the entire season.
And
just the Hurts thing, it's 1 point, but
it also like into the playoffs, it kind of fell pretty good for them too.
Yeah.
Getting a beaten up Packers team, getting the Rams coming off of the weirdness that they were going through, and then obviously the Commanders knocking off the Lions. So, okay. Any thoughts on the halftime show?
Not really. No,
I don't really. Yeah, it was interesting. I'm not a huge Kendrick Lamar guy, as maybe you might imagine. One thing that is kind of annoying me is there's a lot of like, that was the greatest thing ever. You just don't understand. But I haven't found a great explanation as to why it is. I keep watching like these TikTok videos trying to have people explain to me. It's like, it's so much smarter than you realize. I was like, I guess so.
Yeah.
It lacked a little bit of the pomp and circumstance that maybe comes with a halftime show. I also thought the mixing was kind of weird. If that's an audio term,
people pointing that out.
I couldn't totally hear it.
The audio levels,
right?
Of it
but that's
weren't
I guess
great.
Probably a rap thing too, where it's like he's speaking quicker than Katy Perry.
Yeah.
There was no left shark, right shark. That was a bummer. But I also people getting triggered by it are so goddamn lame.
Yeah.
It's just. Go do something else for 20 minutes. It's why we have to have this conversation every year. That's my thing.
I think by and large, I enjoyed it.
He's a little obsessed with Drake.
Yeah, that's true too.
But I also like a guy using like the biggest point of his career to completely dump all over his biggest rival. That's kind of sick too.
It's funny when you mentioned the left shark, right shark thing, because it is just like. Sometimes you just don't know what you're getting into with the Super Bowl halftime show. Like, and I like that there's variance to it.
Right.
Like, if it's the same thing every year, if every year it was just like, let's just get a really old artist to pump out the hits.
Yeah.
That's no different than like just somebody playing on touch tunes.
But I think they should. I think they should bring in somebody like rotate through.
Yeah.
And if we all just like the NFL just came out and was like, look. We're going to kind of cycle through. We don't have a total rubric here, but we've got an idea.
Yeah.
Whereas like next year has to be, I don't know, name the biggest hit maker you can think of.
I do like when the idea though of it being like sort of a snapshot in time to like what
that's cool too,
Super Bowl, like the current state of just the world.
Right.
And it kind of felt that way. Like wherever like like it's just I think that was my takeaway. It's like this is the world right now.
Do you remember who did the halftime show last year?
Rihanna, right? Or was that 2 years ago?
See, this is my point.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter. Like that's
I think it was Rihanna.
Sure.
Oh no, last year was
This is my point. I was only trying to make a point. It's
no, it was Rihanna.
She was pregnant. I remember that. Super Bowl 58.
But Reba McEntire did the national anthem, correct?
That's the other thing.
We had a big blowout about Reba. How much we love Reba, and she should do the halftime show next year.
It was Usher last year.
Oh, all right. So Rihanna was 2 years.
That speaks more to I think your own general lot in life at this point, where the years are kind of piling up.
I mean,
if you would ask me, I would have been like the 50 Cent was last year.
What sucks too is when the Chiefs are in it every year. It becomes a lot more difficult to differentiate. We ran into this problem a couple weeks ago. It was like that was that the 49ers Super Bowl or the Eagles Super Bowl.
It's there. All right.
Usher, I don't really remember Usher's performance.
Maybe if it was Usher's a perfect example. So we're going on that pattern, right? Like Usher, Kendrick, whatever the Usher version is next year, maybe something in San Francisco. So. All right, that probably took longer than we should have. But anyway, let's get into looking
real quick. Yeah, that I did get kind of like annoyed about as the week went on.
Sure,
is just every media member who was down in New Orleans talking about the cuisine. Like what they ate for the week.
Apparently, New Orleans is the greatest city in the world. This is the other thing too. You get coming out of it. It's like every Super Bowl should be in New Orleans. I've never been to New Orleans. Have you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Do you like it? You don't like the food, apparently.
No, the food was fine. It was just like I don't need everybody telling me about the gumbo.
Yeah,
like great. But no, I liked New Orleans.
Jambalaya. Yeah. All right, we're gonna get into
a really long time ago. So
yeah, there you go. 2025 NFL look ahead. I think one exercise I wanted to kind of do here, and I'm interested. The more I was doing my notes, the more I like this idea. We're going to kind of try to find the 2025 version of a 2024 team based on Super Bowl odds coming out of the Super Bowl. You and I had a quick discussion, too. It's very hard to find old Super Bowl odds. Actually, now that I think about it, I could have found them much easier. There's like the sports betting history page I could have just gone to. But we did find them, dig into it. So I have a handful of teams here. I'll give you their Super Bowl odds going into last year. And hopefully you can give me something resembling that this year. Are you up to the task?
Yeah, I'm not sure what we're doing, but we'll figure it out.
All right. So the Eagles going in last year 17-1. What team in that neighborhood do you think is going to kind of, you know what I mean? Like,
let me pull up the.
Who can pull? Yeah, I don't have it either. But I have. You want me to go first?
17-1.
They were. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
That surprised me too. Which is so. It tells you that not. The best teams aren't always on the radar, and that I think that kind of speaks to what we were just talking about with the Eagles this year too, right? It's like there's that stake on them coming off of last year.
So, all right, I got the odds for
this year. There's two teams
up.
that are obvious for me in this regard.
The 49ers,
so they're one of them.
I got 15-1 at FanDuel, and they feel like they're kind of. The allure has worn off them in the same way that the allure had worn off the Eagles last year.
There's also like this thing could topple. Yeah. Like you look at quarterback and coach, it's like those guys have ceilings that are pretty good, but if this thing doesn't work, it's time to start rethinking
but then, you could be sitting here a year from now and be like, well, there was a lot of talent on that 49ers team.
The only thing with them is, and we'll get into this too, is are they looking to kind of offload pieces here? And
I think you run it back for one more year. I think it's kind of a last-ditch effort for them.
Sure.
So that's the one that's
wide open division too. Another team I looked at here, the Bengals, 18-1. I don't know if that totally fits the criteria.
Yeah.
But
really the only two teams in that ballpark.
Yeah.
You're looking at the odds boards.
Yeah, actually.
But I think
that is.
But yeah, they make a lot of sense from a narrative standpoint.
But it makes more sense than like the Packers at 20-1, where it's the Bengals. I think people are down on. There are questions about the quarterback and the coach as well. They have. I don't know if their roster is nearly as good. That's the thing is, I don't know whose roster. If you even look at this list anywhere.
Yeah,
who's got a great
Bengals?
roster?
It's like you hope to change at defensive coordinator, and you whatever tweaks you make on that side of the ball are good enough. Yeah. I mean, you have the quarterback clearly,
right? Do you have the coach? That's the question mark too.
Yeah.
All right, you got the hang of it here.
I think so.
Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Who's going to be next year's Washington Commanders? Washington. unsurprisingly, was a long shot to win the Super Bowl last year. 150 to 1 going into the season, the same as a team like the Patriots. Who do you think could be next year's Washington Commanders?
Maybe it is the Patriots. Maybe
I have them ticketed for another one of these options, but that's an idea. Because new coach, quarterback's still kind of new.
I think if I'm looking in that ballpark, I think maybe the Jets.
That's who I got.
And obviously, it depends on what they do with the quarterback.
And
but
it depends how good Aaron Glenn is.
It's like, it almost feels like, can we finally get away from this circus and lean on this young core that still is as good as really any in the NFL? The more I think
about it,
I kind of love this pick.
It's not exactly, but it's really close to the Commanders, right? The Commanders had a ton of turmoil.
Yep.
And they were coming out of the Daniel Snyder thing. Jets coming out of the Aaron Rodgers, Robert Saleh thing. Nailed it.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Going back to the Niners, though, that's how their defense got a little bit better. So
yeah, I know. But the Jets, 131 in the same idea. Aaron Glenn might suck.
Yeah.
Might be awesome. Whereas Dan Quinn kind of came in, defensive-minded head coaches, changed the culture, got things turned around pretty quick. I was looking at Tankathon.com has a NFL mock draft. They have the Jets taking Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart at number 42, which is a sick name for a quarterback.
Yeah.
So that could be their Jaden Daniels if you squint hard enough.
I watched one game of his this year, and he was like, "This dude stinks."
Well, it's not a perfect comp, but
everybody else loves him. So I don't
similarly,
know. I'm missing something.
Another thing, the division could be opening up in a way that the NFC East obviously opened up for Washington outside of Philly, obviously. So I like that one. Another team I looked at here, completely different situation, but if you're just looking for value right now, Cleveland, 150 to 1 if they get Aaron Rodgers, which doesn't seem like a great possibility, but if they got him, it could make some sense where it's like, they have a pretty good roster, a good head coach. If they don't trade Myles Garrett, it probably feels like a little bit too long of a shot.
Yeah.
Realistically. But
I love the Jets pick the more I think of it. It's just like, let's just get back to this what we had going pre-Rodgers when we made it we made it messier than it needed to be. But again, they got to find a quarterback.
Yeah, that's kind of an issue.
They need a quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who is that?
I don't know. I don't know. For the sake of this exercise, it's probably a guy I haven't heard of because I don't think
Kirk
they're
Cousins?
getting one of the top quarterbacks either.
Sam Darnold?
Sure.
I don't know what their cap situation looks like.
It's probably not good, especially depending on what they do with Rodgers. But next year's Broncos, another one. Broncos kind of in the middle of a rebuild, it felt like.
They've been a slow burn.
Yeah, right. So I think we're in a similar vein here. They were, let's see, what did I have? They were 100 to 1 last year coming out of the Super Bowl. That probably changes as the summer went on, but 100 to 1. Does anybody fit your fancy here?
There's nobody really in that ballpark from an odds standpoint this year, right?
Well, actually, yeah, you're right. I got weird odds.
I would maybe either. All right, I got two though that like kind of fit that narrative.
What odds was I looking at somewhere else? I thought the Raiders were 100 to 1. They're 190 to 1.
I don't think they fall into this category.
I think they kind of do.
All right. I don't know if they're a slow burn though. They're kind of
I know, but just the only thing with the Raiders is like they're gonna have a new quarterback. They could draft a quarterback.
Yeah,
the Broncos drafted Bo Nix, and they've got a veteran head coach in a division that might be winnable.
I think the two that jump out in that division at the Chargers. I think we talked like a few weeks ago about how they were sort of building towards something. The other one is the Cardinals. Because I think
now we're talking.
Division is sneaky open for the taking.
Yeah.
And they just kind of feel like they're stuck in neutral right now. But like I think they have the cap space, the picks. Like they have the assets to go out and start making moves. It's just a matter of whether they do it.
Interesting.
But they're a team that nobody really talks about, and I think could kind of. And nobody was talking about the Broncos either. So
sure,
yeah, they fall into that category.
This is where I have the Patriots. 80 to 1. Veteran, good head coach, young quarterback. They probably don't have as good of a roster, but they could make some moves here. The problem with the Patriots, as trying to fit it into this Broncos mold, is I think they're probably going to be pretty aggressive this offseason. So I don't think they're going to sneak up on anybody at 80 to 1. Or if they go out and get T. Higgins, if they go out and the draft falls their way, Vrabel does some Vrabel things with getting guys in that he feels are good. But that's similar, right? It's building a program.
It's like with them, they have to go out and overpay, whether it's in terms of free agency expenditures or trading draft picks or whatever. Like they need to see they need to feel what it's like to win again,
right?
More or less.
Yeah.
Like just get the arrow back pointing upward. Even if obviously you're not gonna do that so that you hinder yourself in the long run, but I think you need to raise the floor a little bit.
If they make the playoffs, it wouldn't be surprising. No. So, all right, last one I got here. The Bears. They were 40 to 1 going into last year. It did not go well.
No.
It went very poorly. Do you see it? So I guess the idea here is a team that could be a high draft pick, have a big name player coming in, or a few, could be looking to be active in free agency. I guess maybe the Patriots could check this box as well too if they had that sort of offseason. But I think you're kind of looking on a team that's probably going to have more hype than it deserves here in that neighborhood of 41.
So I got one.
Yeah,
at 24 to 1.
Interesting.
If we'll indulge that,
I will hear you on this
purpose of this exercise. The Commanders.
Interesting.
I want to see it year over year.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you have the quarterback, but a lot of veteran guys on 1-year deals that came in, made an impact. What happens when you finally taste a little bit of adversity? Does it carry over to a new year, or is this just sort of a catch lightning in a bottle for a little bit? I think they overperform what they were collectively as a team.
Sure.
So, yeah, they're the team for me. I could see them, if not regressing, I don't know if they take that leap that everybody's just kind of assuming they'll take.
To get ahead of ourselves, they're going to do something big in the offseason too. And so there's going to be that buzz around them when they go out and get Myles Garrett or they get T. Higgins or somebody like that.
And it could be it could be T. Higgins or a trade for Deebo Samuel or one of these really splashy moves that moves the odds in a way that to an extent that it really shouldn't, because like you said, the importance of the trenches, those are the moves that really should be more fixated on when it comes to this.
If they have a great draft, then they're cooking. But it's not just, there's going to be hype around them.
The hype will get to a level that exceeds their overall potential.
So my pick here for the next year's Chicago Bears at 40 to 41 neighborhood, the Chicago Bears at 40 to 1, where I don't know, got to see it with Ben Johnson. Why does everybody think Ben Johnson is going to be Vince Lombardi?
Yeah, I was reading something the other day, and somebody made a really good point of just is there anything more overrated than play calling as it relates to head coaches? We fall so in love with this guy is cooking up some cool plays.
And honestly,
I don't know, man. Can you build a culture?
Well, that's the other
What's
thing.
The process?
It's not just building the culture too. It's you've got a lot more responsibilities now.
You delegate. Yeah, stuff like that. Gerard Mayo couldn't do any of that stuff.
It's you're so used to doing the day-to-day stuff, and now all of a sudden you're responsible for what's the menu gonna look like, and what's the strength program look like, and all of a sudden the time that you were spending just trying to figure out how you can lateral the ball back to somebody who's running through some other dude's legs and the guy's tripping and falling, and all of a sudden that gets devoted to other stuff. You got to do the coaches show on the radio all of a sudden, and you're in Chicago, a place where people are going to be calling for high expectations. And I don't know if Caleb Williams is that guy. So, if they don't address the offensive line, I think a lot of the benefit or the value that you might see in those two guys, the head coach and the quarterback, are completely reduced because you can't protect them. Again, going back to the trench stuff. I don't know. The division's still pretty good, right?
Those teams aren't going anywhere.
They're going to do something, and it's going to be all right, this is actually the year. And it's more the Ben Johnson thing than anything else. And it's maybe they're good. I don't know. Maybe they can't be a whole lot worse than they were last year. I'm not ready to buy the hype on them.
you don't fix that offensive line, nothing's happening.
Another low-key option.
Ben Johnson going from the Lions offensive line to the Bears offensive line.
That's
stuff
huge.
you would cook it up in Detroit is not working.
Yeah, you don't have the time, man. It just doesn't work. Another low-key option here, Houston, 30-1. I feel like they probably are going to do a lot to address the issues that they have, but if they don't fix their offensive line, it's going to be the same issue. So.
That like the whole like concept of like going from being a coordinator to a head coach and the added responsibilities and just all of that stuff is so fascinating to me.
I agree.
Like I would love to just sit down with somebody who's made that sort like that has made those transitions over the years from positional coach to coordinator, head coach, and just be like, what's the biggest change like on day one of walking into that building?
This is the kind of stuff that we should be trying to do.
Yeah.
Anyway,
maybe we will.
The Spread, Nesson's Sports Betting Picks podcast. Catch it every week on Thursdays, typically. You can listen to that wherever else you listen to your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, any number of great outlets, or you can watch it on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. Just look for Nesson. I got to get a new podcast thing. It's struggling. I guess Spotify is probably the way to go. I don't know. It's just they all suck.
For headphones. You go to the gym or something.
I got wireless ones. I got wraparound ones, and I also have other ones that I use at home when I'm like cooking that are just like the earbuds.
Oh, I can't do the earbuds.
I'm always cycling through stuff.
Fall out of I
lose them all the time.
Fall out of my ears.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll hook you. I gotta come.
When I go to the gym, I'm like the big goofball with the
really?
Looks like air muffs.
I was gonna say the like 2002 wraparounds with like the. Yeah, those are sick. All right, let's do some next team stuff. We have a lot here. I don't know if we're going to have time to get to all of it, but we'll do what we can. Aaron Rodgers, I think this was a low-key interesting thing that happened on Super Bowl Sunday. Jake Glazer says he's done with the Jets. I also saw there was reporting, I think Diana Rossini said Aaron Glenn told him if you're going to come back, you can't do McAfee anymore, which is awesome.
So this is why I kind of go back to like the Jets thing. It's like I do like the sense of conviction they're working with finally.
And it's also an easy win because like
how about Aaron Glenn like having it out with reporters basically on day one on the
which
job.
Again, if it doesn't go well in New York, you're going to look like a doofus. But I like that. It's a great spot for him to like kind of pretend to be in charge of everything.
Yeah.
Knowing that it probably isn't going to make a difference because the guy's going to be gone no matter what. Anyway, so I think he's most likely going to get cut. They can give him the post-June 1 designation. If they try to trade him, I think it's going to cost them, $49 million and a cap hit if they do it before June 1. I think that was Rich Cimini had that. So according to Bet Online, the Pittsburgh Steelers are the favorite at even money, followed by the Niners 3-1, Saints 5-1, Raiders 7-1, Seahawks 10-1, Browns, as I mentioned earlier, 10-1. Do you have a lean here? What do you think?
There are no good real destinations for him, huh? Like the Steelers make too much sense.
Yeah, so the Steelers are the favorite for a reason, right? Like I was looking into this. Arthur Smith is the offensive coordinator there. That feels like there's at least some familiarity because I think when he took over for LaFleur in Tennessee, when Tennessee left for Green Bay, he was running the same offense. So there's probably some similarities. Like I think it's just easier to onboard him there. I think the guy, somebody like George Pickens feels like the type of receiver that Rodgers would fall in love with. It's like I can just throw this thing deep and he's going to run down there and try to catch it. So I think he can play in the cold. I think it's the most likely thing. It's kind of sad for both sides if we're being honest.
Yeah.
But like the most interesting one to me is San Francisco at 3-1. I just don't know what you do with Brock Purdy there. But like him going home to end his career, he can bring Devontae Adams with him. They're the North Cal guys or whatever, Fresno, all that makes a little bit of sense.
It is kind of sad the Steelers one because it's like you kind of just hanging on to something that maybe doesn't exist anymore,
and like getting your head kicked in by the Bengals and the Ravens probably.
You think Devontae Adams could go to Pittsburgh as well?
I just don't. No. We can maybe skip to that one after this, but I don't. By the way, I do want to get Deshaun Elliott, safety for the Steelers. Since deleted a comment on an IG post said leave his ass at the retirement home when it comes to Rodgers. So I don't know if there's a ton of buy in there. I also like Tennessee. I think that is an idea that would be interesting. If Tennessee is like, we don't want to take a quarterback number 1 overall, let's just figure this out for 1 year. I can see that happening too.
Yeah.
Devontae Adams. We'll go to him. We'll skip over one of the ones we're going to do. Buffalo 3-1 favorite, followed by Pittsburgh at 4-1, the Chargers at 5-1, Washington 6-1, and the Niners at 7-1. Patriots 12-1 at Bet Online. I don't know. Do you have I think he's going to the West Coast. That's my
Chargers
prediction.
feels like
that. Chargers is what I got, and I actually
really
might
good pick.
make a. If I have any money left in this account, 5-1 feels like it's a good young quarterback, coach that he probably respects. I think he's a West Coast guy. LA's sick.
Yeah,
why not?
But this is the type of move though that when we say like the odds shifts more than they probably should based on a high profile move. Like this is one that I could see.
Yeah, but I think this is a good
impact.
move for them where they are on their progression.
Sure, no,
right?
no. I think it makes sense. I'd just be hesitant to all of a sudden like the hype could get to a level with the Chargers where it doesn't belong.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Which that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, just because you got famous quarterback, famous head coach. That's a recipe for hype. Let's see. Is there anybody else here that Buffalo 3-1 feels like an interesting idea, but I don't know. Yeah, the more I look at the Chargers or the Niners, again, West Coast feels like an interesting one. Vegas 18-1. If you're looking for a value pick, going back there, maybe with Rodgers, but I also don't see Rodgers playing in Chip Kelly's system either. So that's tough. We'll go back. Cooper Kupp feels like he is. Well, actually, he is going to be traded. The other thing with Devontae Adams is he would have to be traded probably, so that's another wrinkle. But Cooper Kupp, the Chargers 3-1. That feels almost too obvious. Buffalo 4-1, Pittsburgh 5-1, Denver 6-1, and Vegas 7-1. Shout out Ethan for playing with the graphics. We threw him a curveball there. I think he goes to Buffalo.
That makes sense.
I think he feels like a Buffalo guy. I don't know what that means necessarily, especially for a dude who's been playing in sunny LA for his entire career. That feels like it fits the mold of what the Bills have tried to build recently. I don't know if he's cashed or not. That's kind of an issue.
Yeah.
But I do kind of like that receiver room if they can make that work, assuming Amari Cooper isn't cashed either. This is a short window type of move for a team like the Bills, but I think that makes sense.
Yeah. I think I had Buffalo jotted down. I don't know, maybe the Broncos. I could talk myself into
That's
that
fair
maybe.
too, yeah.
But this goes back to like what we were saying about Buffalo. Like this is the type of offseason move that they need to make. Like I don't know if you want to jump ahead, but like Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
For me, Buffalo. Like go out and make that move. Get yourself a game record on the defensive side.
I just would Cleveland. I guess Cleveland doesn't care at this point. Yeah,
they've got
just trade
so much going on.
Yeah, I think Myles Garrett makes more sense for Washington. Like I think there's a real possibility in my mind if they can make the money work. They are like, we have a quarterback who is awesome and cheap. Let's spend money and spend draft capital to make ourselves better because we got that close already.
Yeah,
and they get Myles Garrett and Deebo Samuel. They're actually the favorites to get Deebo Samuel too at 3-1. The Chargers, the Panthers, the Broncos are in there. I think Washington, like the more I think about it, Washington ends up with both Deebo and Myles Garrett, and it's like, all right, this thing is ready to roll.
The other one for Myles Garrett was Detroit.
Interesting. It's just going to cost
like
so much to get him that I don't know if
they just feel like a team though with their level of depth that I'm like, you could take a swing at getting that guy that puts you over the top. Yeah,
I guess it is. They almost went to the NFC Championship with nobody on there.
But it's like the one clear weakness is just not having somebody else on the other side.
Him and Aiden Hutchinson
would be
like pretty awesome.
That feels like an immediate fix, I would say.
And then you got anything on T. Higgins? Do you think he ends up here?
So he's the one where I could see the Commanders making a play there.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
He's going to make so much money.
But he's, 26? 27? Yeah. Like, he fits every team's competitive window, whether it's you're going all in next year or you're building out for the next 5 years. Like, it's like we've seen with, like, I don't want to compare the two of them, but, like, Juan Soto, how he got so much money largely because of he hit free agency at, 25, 26. Right. I feel like that's where we're kind of at with T. Higgins as well.
That's fair.
You're getting a long runway with him.
Yeah. The more I'm looking at like Denver 3-1 actually does kind of make sense if they've got I'm guessing they have the cap room if they're the favorite. I don't know.
I think the Patriots are going to push all of their chips in. I just don't know if he would want to come here.
It just doesn't feel like the move to make. They need to do something, I guess, to make that receiver room better. But does T. Higgins change anything about their 2025 season in a dramatic way? Yeah, maybe. It just feels like T. Higgins is like a next year move, not T. Higgins himself.
Yeah, but I think that's it's like maybe it doesn't necessarily move the needle all that much this year.
But he's still
next
good
year,
next year.
27,
yeah,
as opposed, so I just don't know if he would want to come to New England.
Sure.
So.
Next year in New England, you and I will still be good. So make sure you're checking out the Spread, Nesson's Football and Sports Betting Picks podcast every week on Thursday. If you want to listen to it, you can do so at Spotify, Apple, any other number of podcast, Amazon Music places, or you can watch it. That's a good idea too. You can watch it on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook. Just go look for Nesson, and you can watch us. All right, we've got we got 1 minute left. What are you betting on now? Now this NFL is over.
I might take a breather.
Yeah, cash out your money.
Yeah, just enjoy it a little bit. I don't know. March Madness will be before you know.
That's true. Also, I looked
when
up.
Start cramming the Ken Palm numbers.
Just a little more than 50 days. The Masters will be here. I already have a Justin Rose at 120 and a Sepp Straka at 120 to 1. Also, Daytona 500.
No,
this
that's
weekend.
Right. That's
Christopher Bell 26 to 1. Do I still have his things pulled up here? Yes. His most recent finishes at Daytona 3-3-1. I think that was a duel. 16-3-2, 36-34, 5. All you're asking for at Daytona, keep me up towards the front.
Yep.
As long as you can avoid the big one, anything can happen. He runs well there. They go fast. He's good team there. I think he's got a chance. That's a great one to bet on. I love the Daytona 500. All right, we got to go.
Perfect way to close the chapter. Some NASCAR talk.
Hell yeah. That's Ricky. I'm Mike. We'll talk to you again at some point. Goodbye.